非常荣幸，我们能请到4位嘉
Deeply
宾来
honored
讨
to
论
have 4 panelists to shed light on the trend of the future media development. As my colleague has introduced that the panelists are from different media sources, even some from the social media. So my first topic is overall comments or evaluation on the media industry. As Yuqi, you're from social media, Sina Weibo. In your view or estimation, what is the biggest change facing the media industry? Embracing change. What kind of changes do you embrace? In terms of platform, when consumers are consuming the contents, they actually mostly consume the contents, news feeds from the media. Actually, they are also facing the changes of the mediums, be it from newspaper, TV, and also the format of contents from video, from scripts. Actually, recently there was a new Sina Weibo account. Just in a matter of few sessions, they have reached a 240 million hits. The reason why there's such a good popularity is because they use the social media way of disseminating information. How does this kind of form of information sharing different from TV, from the traditional media? Only change of carrier or medium. The fundamental change is we respect users more. We use very equal and favorite way of the youngsters, especially the people in the millennials and Generation Z, the way they like. There has been a dialogue of 2017 in the left, 2019 in the right, so before and after. Actually, that kind of feed became very popular because it was a comparison between the past and the present. So what you mean is a trend from up to bottom or bottom to up. Is it user-generated contents? It's not something like just user-originated. It is the way that is promoting that is most important. Right now, in the social media platform, we found that content producer from PCC, UCC has been converted into PUCC. So the content producer is actually the same bunch of people with a content consumer. Only when those two kind of people merge into one can we have bigger communications and outreach.
So you work for BuzzFeed. How would you define the media that you serve? Is it social media? Is traditional media? What is it?
I think in America, those two things were very separate at the beginning of the decade. And as social media platforms became bigger in the West, the distinction started to erode, for better or worse. And BuzzFeed, I think, has been right at the center of that big change. So we started with fun, viral lists and quizzes and animated GIFs. And we started adding more and more journalism as readers became more sophisticated and wanted to share.
When did you start at BuzzFeed?
I started in 2012, when the news operation started. And as we've started to become more sophisticated about what we do journalistically, I think our readers have responded to that. And so now, Western social media is kind of a chaotic storm of viral memes and hard-hitting journalism and crazy nonsense.
So you're a mix of both?
I think so, yeah.
And it is working?
Somehow. I think what it is, though, is the understanding that on the internet, things blur together. You know, a hard-hitting journalism story can become a viral topic. We saw this with the Me Too movement in the West, where a trending hashtag became a gender equality movement, right? I think the distinction is gone now. And it's made the media landscape more complicated, but it's also made it a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting.
So do you think your media represent the change of the industry, or just one example of a diversified makeup of the landscape?
I think we started very early, and then a lot of other companies have either evolved to become more like us, or new ones have popped up. Vox Media, Vice Media, Refinery 29, lots of websites like this are starting to do social-facing content. We started really early, and we kind of lucked into it. We were looking at what the traffic was doing, and we started making more content to fit that traffic. And I think a lot more companies are now responding to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Antoine, Daily Motion, many people say it's just YouTube in French. Is that a correct summary?
That's a compliment, I guess. Yeah, it's a European version of YouTube. It's essentially a video platform, or more, I would say, a video ecosystem, because we serve a lot like media as our main partners. So it's almost not anymore a UGC platform at all, which I think is something that we can debate. But we're more in such a way a media platform that allow to share a lot of...
But it started as a UGC platform.
Very few, very few. It started 15 years ago as a UGC platform, such as YouTube and a lot of us, actually, a lot of platforms. But I think we had a wake-up call 4 or 5 years ago, and we became adult to a certain degree, and we accepted to become like focusing on premium content and verified content, which equal to media content and professionally produced content, which is, I think, a great move overall. Not only from a business standpoint, but also when you think about our responsibility as a platform. So we had that wake-up call like 4 or 5 years ago. I can explain why actually it happens. And I think it's a movement, or at least a debate that is fueling all platforms and the ecosystem in general. And so we're almost not anymore UGC. It's a tiny fraction of what we're doing today.
And how the audience receiving Daily Motion, because it's been changing to more professionally produced videos.
I think one of the interesting points is like if you move to something more professional or more quality oriented, obviously you lose a little bit of traffic and excitement. Yeah, of course, and we have to assume that, and we have to be bold in that decision, because if not, it's just like too easy. So maybe for some of the users, they pretty much don't like it, but it's not the problem. The problem is like, what is the responsibility and what sort of content we're proud to expose to our users. So if UGC equal some violent content or some copyrighted content, are we really proud to serve that kind of content? The reply is no.
Are you saying that Daily Motion is not commercially driven?
It is commercially driven. It's actually a very good question that you just raised, because if you look at the wake-up call that I was referring to a few years ago, I think it was mainly motivated by a brand safety crisis in Europe, actually. So what we had essentially is very violent videos in front of ads. And everyone started to realize that like platforms are kind of responsible for that. I mean, they are the one putting the ads in front of the content at the end. And that was the wake-up call. So actually the wake-up call was not driven by a sense of, I don't know, vision or citizenship or whatever. It was driven by a business decision, which I think is a very rational KPI to look at and a very powerful tool to make change, actually.
Director Yang, Kathleen, Director Yang, as I have known that you actually are now in the CCTV, but you actually transformed from the traditional media to the new media and digital media center of the CCTV. What is the boundary or distinction between traditional media and new media? You have raised a very general question. If I recall my time when I was recruiting from Wuhan University, I said no enemy ever is called new media. No new media was targeting us, but we have to be aware of our short links. In 2007, when approaching the Olympic Games, I was writing a book. At that time, Times Warner person gave a speech at CCTV. I asked, what is new media? And the person interviewed was scratching his head. He said, maybe it is called a non-linear presentation. It is actually the treat and the feature of the new digital media. Up until now, all the new medias are based on the non-linear presentation and interactive models. Actually, TikTok TikTok and Douyin amplified its digital advantages. All the new media tend to exemplify their non-linear presentation. However, traditional medias are not non-linear. For example, our pay-per-view is not that big, not as big as our planned broadcasting. People already get used to the way of interaction in the past. However, for the Gen Z, Generation Z, they like to be immersed in the internet. They have very strong uploading capabilities. My daughter is 8. She knows how to send and upload a TikTok video using her little finger to draw a heart shape on the window when there's heating. So she wrote something that each loving heart will shed tears for you if you suffer. So some people misunderstood her as an adult. I worried that she got too premature, but her video was very much popular on the social media. So your example is the treat of new media. What I mean is many of the consumers emerge as a producer of contents. My phone is a 4G enabled one, and pretty soon we will exchange into 5G. Whoever owns 5G, whoever can upload will be as professional as journalists. They can run faster than the journalist, and the speed, the editing, final cut skills are even superior than that of the journalists and reporters. So, do you think the content is generated by user or CCTV new media? We don't do to C. We mostly do to B, to the professional media companies, partners. All the TV stations are the content producers. In the future, we will to C. First step to OGC. I think UGC is a pseudo fake concept, because for UGC, there are so many chaotic and disorganized information.
According to statistics, and every day about 36 billion different types of informations are on the internet. If we read, how much could you read within one day? Maybe you can read like 360 pieces of information. So for the UGC, it's about the input and push and the screening, but AI now can help us to screen, select, push. Yes, we can trust AI, but we cannot solely rely on AI. AI sometimes will push the things you like, so you will have repetitive information every day. Is that like TikTok? What is who is doing? Can I finish my speech? Okay. Okay. Speaking of TikTok, that's another topic. For example, there's been a very hot topic. That's the female performer from Xi'an. So I clicked this, and then I got a lot of push on the TikTok about the same performers. So it's like that I'm being wrapped by the same piece of information. So that's why we need the people there to push the things that might interest you. For example, you like this performer in Xi'an, then maybe I push something about the Xi'an warrior. And how about the content and the cultural heritage of Xi'an? So I gradually channel you to the stream that I would like to push. So if CCTV video will go to the customers, will that be in our direction? We will not go to UGC directly. We will go to UGC. That's occupied generated content. I think such kind of content should be original generate content. For example, there's a doctor who is an ear doctor. He has about 2 million followers. Or an astronaut who has millions of followers. Or of anchor Kang Hui, he has also a lot of followers. And we also have another anchor who tells you how to pronounce a Chinese phrase. So all these content creators are the professionals in their fields. So I will hope that the future content creators, first of all, will be professionals. And the creators will be the people who share this information. And all the uploads will also channel user to further information. So I have always one thought. All the information should be deeply rooted in a knowledge base.
Your take on what Ms. Yang just said, because obviously there is a value judgment in what she has been saying, because algorithm obviously offering something that you like, but what is that? But you basically live in the information bubble, and you feed something that is always in your comfort zone. Is that okay? What is the problem in there?
So I've covered close to a dozen elections around the world over the last 5 years, looking at how technology influences politics. And I think one of the bigger issues globally right now is the impact of algorithms on society. We don't really understand how they work. We don't really understand what they are. We don't really know what they're doing to our minds. There have been studies done in America about the impact of YouTube on people's politics, the impact of Facebook on people's ideas of reality. But the simple fact is we don't actually know. All we really know are that these platforms have an automation in them that serves you more content based on what you like, and they want you to keep using it, which means they typically incentivize the most base behavior. It doesn't mean that it's all bad, but it means that there's a lot of issues with that. So you get stuck in a feedback loop, and you seek out things that make you more excited to use the app.
What is the ultimate principle media, social media? Is it to serve our users, or is it to enlighten our users, inform our users? What is our role there?
Well, I think social media is actually a quite natural idea. People like to share stuff with each other. It's a pretty basic human concept anywhere you go. A journalist's role is also fairly basic, which is you want to tell people what happened and you want to tell it to them fast, ethically, and you want to tell it to them in an informative way. The things that have become complicated is that platforms like Facebook or Twitter, YouTube in the West have combined those two things together in really messy ways. But if you separate them, they're quite simple. And I think when you add algorithms into the mix, it gets even more complicated and hard to decipher where me and you having a fun chat stops and where me as a journalist starts. And that's where it gets complicated.
所以我也特别想听到于琦的观点啊，就是这个算法这个问题。算法就像刚才杨俊宏说的，它可能会让人生活在一个信息的茧里，你只得到你所喜欢的信息，会让你愉悦的信息，但你可能是一个偏见的信息。那么算法有没有社会责任？我们怎么来设计这个算法？
So maybe the algorithm should be responsible. How can we design this algorithm? Maybe this algorithm should be in favor of encouraging people to think more, to have their own judgment. So what will be a right algorithm? So first of all, I agree with Madam Yang that there should be a vertical trend so that the good information creators can share more and positive information. For example, for Weibo, it's not purely based on algorithm, but in Weibo, there are two streams. One is what to follow. The other stream is the hot topics. The hot topics are usually based on algorithm, but for what to follow, it is based on who you follow and what you follow, or the content actually viewed by the people who you follow. So if we use the Weibo, actually we have this rumor cleaning function. For example, as Mandan Yang said, we have those influencers who are professionals on Weibo. They create information, they share this information. Once there is a rumor, those influencers, professional influencers, will retweet this piece of information and saying that this is a rumor. So when this piece of rumor is resent, there is a tag on it saying this is already a rumor, and professional influencers will actually correct this piece of information and add more professional knowledge. So for on Weibo platform, we will add this tag. And this is what you control or manage, or in the natural communication, in the natural process of communication, the rumors will be cleaned. So once this is a piece of rumor, there will be a tag on it saying this is a rumor. Those tags are created by the professional influencers and users. You trust this process of natural communication. This has been proved by the facts. And we also have a tagging function. This tagging function has been authorized to the official accounts. So from the media organizations or governments, if they found out that this is a piece of rumor, they will tag saying that this is a rumor.
Your take on how algorithm is fitted in the operation of your media, and how you have your own editorial policies or regulations in place to ensure that no disinformation and rumor can spread online.
Yeah, it's a very critical question, I guess. First, and just to take the context in perspective, actually algorithm or AI is just the results of human produced, right? It's produced by human at the end of the day. So everything that is behind the words algorithm or AI is actually human choices and decisions from individuals or companies, and so we just have to be clear on that first. Then going back to your specific point, there's really easy take that we can actually put in action. So I'll give you an example. When you recommend a video so you watch a first video about any topic, the next video that you recommend might be coming from a trusted sources like a media, for instance. It's a very easy choice, a human choice that you can call AI or algorithm, but actually it's a meaningful decision that is immediately impactful. What you can end up with is like you can lose a little bit of your user attention. Okay, that's probably something that might happen, but at least you have clear purposes and a meaningful goal, which is like, I want to serve only quality content after the first viewing experience. So we can call it AI, we can call it algorithm, but it's just actually a natural human process of taking decision. And this decision might be helpful or hurtful for business, but we just need to be clear and honest on that.
Are you saying we should never leave decisions to algorithms to have the final say?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that actually algorithms are designed by us. So we're the ones saying we want in that. So another example will be, let's take basketball, because we all love basketball here, I hope. So I'm watching a first game, and the next will be about one team, and the next will be about one player, and the next will be about the best things that this player did, and the next. And so at the end of your experience, it's not anymore basketball, it's just one player. You're only focusing on one basketball player. This funnel, the way you navigate through that content, your journey, is actually a human decision, because we, as human people, we decided that the algorithm will react in that way. We'll learn from the reaction, but we'll react in that way. So I'm not saying we should let algorithm do things. I'm just saying we're the one designing this algorithm, so we can decide. I'm not saying which decision we should take. That's a different debate, but at least we should be honest on the fact that algorithm is not something that is coming from nowhere. It's actually us. We're building it.
杨主任，央视频
Madam Yang and 央视频 the CCTV video platform. What is its strategy? We have consolidated the resources across China of video clips. What is your next step? First of all, about our strength. If you come here, you can enjoy all the video resources of CCTV and satellite TVs and our live broadcasting, for example, on the mountaintop by lakeside. And at the site of the ice sculptures, we have this live broadcasting streams. And for example, at the riverside of the Pujiang River, we have this live broadcasting. Someone was asking, is that photo? Because the river doesn't seem to be moving. The other user said that, no, there was a ship passing by. So people can go there to see their hometown in a live way. So if we want to build this platform, well, I think first of all, we look at the categories. The categories are like distributive ones and interactive ones, such as TikTok and Weibo. And for platforms, we need to dive into the content and the resources where their accounts can actually grow. So all the good content are there, and the anchors have their accounts here. So how this platform can be interactive, can be kind of social media-like, so that people can talk about it. You asked this question that my boss asks me every day. We try to make it social every day. At the commentary side, we increase our professionals. For example, for the slow motion live broadcast of the Sansha seashore, and we will add content like what is the history of this place, and what is the current of this seashore, and what is the speed of the sea current. And the experts are at the commentary place to increase the content and discussion, so you can actually channel the users to discuss. Sometimes it will also influence the users to talk on certain type of topic. So our editor can sometimes raise questions at the commentary side. For example, for the space, and the eggs can float in the space. If this is a raw egg and this is a boiled egg, and also about the female astronauts. What do they do if they have a period in the space? So the questions will be asked in this commentary side. So it is like kind of educational. Well, education is not our purpose. I think knowledge sharing is what we want to do.
We would like to understand the knowledge behind the news. For instance, we draft a drawing that where is the weight of certain science technologies, and to use graphics and simple drawings to show knowledge and to make people understand. When they read, they acquire knowledge. This is what we want to do.
As with CCTV, as Chinese national television, we've been trying to do social media, but how to involve interactions. Ms. Yang said that we can add our commentator experts into the narratives. That means we not only want them to talk, we want to inform them. We want to lead the narrative in a way that the media think it is a responsibility to do. Do you agree with this approach?
I think yes, is the short answer. But I think that one of the wonders of social media, and I'm not sure how it's used here, but for instance, Twitter has become sort of a tool for journalists to reflect the mood of the reader, to embed the tweets within the story. So I'm not sure if journalists here are going on Weibo and collecting, the best Weibo posts about a topic to show what the conversation is like. But I do think that it does add a dimension to storytelling now, where you can say, this happened, and these users are talking about it, and this is what they're saying, or they're submitting user-generated content that you can reach out for and collect and verify and add that context in, and it makes it a much more vibrant story.
Because I think her argument is that as a traditional media, we have authority on certain topics.
Of course.
That's why we add value to this social media narrative. It makes sense.
I think in the best version of it, we should be a filter as journalists and say, okay, let's take all this raw information, let's sort it, we'll get rid of the junk, and here's a good story, and you can trust it. And that's the most important role for us.
What is the practice in Dailymotion? Where's the practice in Dailymotion of your editorial choices and input?
There is very few editorial choices on Dailymotion. There is more like a recognition of who are the trusted partners and media that we should put up front in front of the users. So our job is more to just select and recognize where the meaningful and trusted media, and to just naturally put that in front of the user. It's not exactly like an editorial choice. So we're not, for instance, deciding that we'll cover that topic or this topic in particular. We're more like, okay, there is a topic, so these are the media that are covering the topic. That's our approach, which is, I think, very traditional and very safe in that way. Overall, I would say that what changed a lot for all of us is the volume, the speed, and the quality. But I think at the end, it's very positive. We have way more content. That content is distributed to us in a super rapid way.
Speed, volume is easy, but what about quality?
I think the quality is so much better. I think we don't realize how lucky we are in terms of the content that we are surrounded with. It's just absolutely brilliant. From journalism to fiction to everything, actually. We're just surrounded by absolutely beautiful and high quality and high quantity content, from the movie theater to the podcast to the screen to social. It's just all around us, and we're really lucky to be in that sort of golden age of abundance of content. I think it's really a privilege. It comes with some risk, and it's pretty new for all of us. But if you think about it from a user perspective, it's just incredibly exciting to be in that environment. We have a lot of fantastic stories and content just here, actually, to consume.
I also want to talk about the main theme of this year's summit, that is media and technology. 我还想谈一谈，就是关于这次峰会的一个主题，就是
The theme of the summit, media and technology. So what kind of technology is the most driving force or creating most opportunities for media? So as a practitioner, Ms. Yang as well, so how would you see the technologies being used in our practice, and how did it go? From 3G to 4G, if we see or look into the future, that we still need to go back on the late stage of 3G, payment could be an opportunity, and at that time we did a lot of NFC. But when 4G actually arrived, that we would believe that the payment was based on barcode instead of NFC. So if we look into the future of 5G, we have a lot of assumptions, a lot of preparations. But when it really arrives, they might appear in a different way. But it doesn't represent that we would sit without doing anything. That we need to invest in live streaming videos, because in the future the bandwidth will be improved without limitations. So I believe the video-based interactions will be the future. And at that time, the internet is not only for capturing information, but it will change another landscapes. For instance, for Sina Weibo, for the past 6 years, in over 60 segments, we've done vertical areas with a monthly page view over 10 billion. So in the future, under 5G, what are the knowledge or content? For instance, now if we are on an airplane, if somebody requires medical attention, if we were lucky enough to find a doctor on the plane, but in the future, we could, from Weibo, to add a doctor online so that it could have the diagnosis remotely. So Weibo has the vision and ambition to do that as well. We would like to serve better on live streaming, on 5G. We would like to done preparations, and we are able to create content, knowledge, to have more followers. And when that day comes, they will be more influential and to be more involved and engaged.
what kind of a text, cutting-edge text, that BuzzFeed is being using that has changed the media operation of your outlet?
I mean, the switch to mobile has been massive. It's changed the way we think about content, the way we tell stories. But something that I've found interesting all day today is I've never heard this until I came here, actually, which is this idea that 5G is coming. It's not a conversation we're having in the West in terms of its regard to storytelling or journalism. And I find it interesting.
Is it because the U.S. is lagged behind in terms of infrastructure?
That is a conversation for a very different panel. But I think it's interesting that that's how it's being thought of here, that technology is leading the user behavior, whereas I feel like for Western platforms, it's actually user behavior and what they adopt in terms of consumer technology. So it has been really interesting to listen to all of you speak today about 5G coming. It's making me wonder what that will mean for us.
But 5G has already come. There are more than 10,000 users in Beijing.
And a lot in Korea too, where it was already adopted like 6 months ago. But then the question is like, is it changing the way Korean people are consuming content, or the type of content they are consuming? That's a very good question, and it's interesting to even look at. I mean, if there's a really good example I want to share with all of you, which is India. Very interesting. The massive data and mobile revolution was not 5G. It was just like cheap data, very reliable, very affordable. That was a massive revolution over the past of the last 3 years. 320 million had access to data because of a lot of things, mainly due to Geo, which is one of the main telco there. So sometimes it's just like you push the adoption of an existing technology a step further, and it changed everything because suddenly everyone has access to data at a very cheap price. So what is very funny for me today is to look at the data in India. So they consume as much data as in Korea today, mobile data. So sometimes it's just like the adaptation of an existing technology that was already there, but just go in a broader way.
And do Europeans also embrace the coming of technologies like 5G and artificial intelligence, like what the Asians have been doing?
Generally, I think I think we're not expecting something fundamentally different from 5G than 4G. For instance, IoT is not a daily topic in Europe. I don't think so. I don't think we can say that. So I would not say that there is the same expectation behind 5G in Europe than in other markets and countries in Asia, for instance, where it's way more.
Yang Rui,
Miss Yang, for CMG, we have had 5G lab. We hope 4K, 8K, AI, these technologies integration would change the landscape of media. I'm not sure would that have more influence to Yang Shiping. I think technologies brings from all-round changes to videos. 5G is the most apparent change because of the highest definition, low latency. It can provide more possibilities to users. It can go beyond professional journalists. And the 5G would bring when the emergence of users. Previously, users were passive, but now the traditional media have been changed, and in internet stage, the page view, likes, reposts, comments, all these become users. Users are become more proactive to choices, and so they have their more powerful influence. So users have to find a platform to upload their own content and share. So these influence of users have brought changes. I once had an idea that the reason we pay attention to users is because we need to have tools in place. For Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent can become the leading apps because Baidu is a search engine, Alibaba is e-commerce and payment, and Tencent is on instant messaging, and even for Toutiao is on special format of uploading news, and Meitu is also Photoshop, and Yang Shiping is the future video search engine, SDK Plus stream, slow motion stream, copyright trading platform. Those are in parallel. We could do national celebration on this search and keyword that we were able to have the result of the very first inaugural ceremony back in 1949, and even the grand ceremony for this year. So we serve users that were on the website which were not active users. So they have to use you in order to become your active users. So this transition is based on tools. So President Shen asked us to do platforms. So if we own the platform to serve tools, so the tools can get users and then get interactions and on the traffic and to get the whole market. So due to the time constraint, thank you very much, Antoine, Ryan, Miss Xiang, and Miss Yang. Thank you all.